Time to add the final piece to the jewelry box. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's been a little while since you've seen the actual body of my K5 Blazer build. Up here on the workbench, we've been doing a lot of work on the interior, and I believe we got it pretty much done, ready for paint now. So that means we have to finish off the body and get it ready for paint as well. Just a couple minor cosmetic and personalized touches that I want to do, really. You can see, to start off, we have some body filler on the front here and also some under the hood. This is just to fill in some cracks that I had to finish that off so we can get a coat of primer on. On the corner here though, I'm looking to get rid of a body line. Let me try to explain that. These trucks back in the day, a lot of them came with trim that ran along a body line here, and then there was a piece of trim that ran along the bottom of the body as well. And what that did was separate two colors for a two-tone paint job. The main part of the body was all one color, and then the inside stripe here, inside of that trim, ended up being another color. Without that trim though, I never really liked the way the body line came on the front of the fender. The front of the fender had a raised section of the body here that the trim would follow along, but that body line didn't continue down the rest of the truck. And like I said, without the trim, it just makes it look a little funny. So what I wanted to do was actually smooth that out. We'll still have the body line coming straight down here, but then it'll profile into a nice gradual curve towards the bottom of the body. You'll probably understand it better just seeing it done. So I'm gonna get to sanding, we'll profile that out, and you can see what I'm talking about. You may be able to see and understand it better now, what I was talking about shaping that profile to fit the body. I'm really happy with how this came out. Maybe with a side-by-side image here, you might be able to see better the change that I made. I have a little bit more that I want to do in the front, but we're going to wrap up the video with that. We're going to move on to the back and finish off this back. You may be able to see inside the body there. I went ahead and filed down the epoxy that I used to re-glue the bed floor into place. And now it's time to install those new wheel tubs. Went ahead and lengthened up my wheel tubs, added another little bead roll line, something just to make it look a little fancy. These will sit right into place and actually line up pretty nice with my panel back here. It covers up all the suspension stuff. Just have to file down the bottom where the support marks were on the 3D print, and we can get those glued into place. Well, you just seen me install the rear top bed cover, whatever you want to call it, of the truck. I went ahead and done this because I knew I was going to have to cut those posts. Being that I raised the floor of the bed up, I knew those posts would have to be cut so that it would fit. My issue is, if you can see it now, my seams aren't lining up that great on either side. Now, I actually had a feeling this was going to happen. It kind of just comes with the territory when you're cutting the floor out and lifting it up, re-gluing the sides together and stuff like that. When I actually glued this floor back in place, I mocked up this top, hoping that everything would line up. I had it all taped together, that way the bed sides couldn't flare out or anything. But it looks like they still did a little bit. Either that or these holes have some extra epoxy or plastic in them or something that's pushing the post in. I'm gonna go ahead and take them off and try to see what I can do to get these to fit as flush as possible. All this work I'm putting into here, I don't want a bad fitting body panel here. It just won't look right. I gotta figure out how to fix that. The other thing, obviously, that we'll need figuring out is the tailgate, because the tailgate actually bolts to that bed, and if I bolted it there right now, it would be really high. So It's gonna have to drop down a good bit. What we're probably gonna end up doing is just using some spacers and some longer screws to run up through there. I'll either 3D print some spacers, or I actually kept the offcuts from the post that I can just stick in there. Like I said, with a longer screw, if I actually dropped the tailgate, you would see stuff like that. It might look a little funny, but most of the time the tailgate being up, you won't notice it. And that should look fine. I'm gonna figure out those two things off camera, and we'll come back and jump on that front. Well, it's not perfect, but I know what to do to fix it. The gaps are pretty good. Everything's lining up pretty good, except for in the back here. The back, it looks like the bed sides are pushed a little out. They're not perfectly perpendicular to the floor of the bed. I believe it'll be a pretty easy fix that I'll do off camera. I'll just score the inside of my glue line here, bend it back and re-glue it. It should pull these bed sides in a bit, and that'll make all of my gaps and panels line up. The tailgate as well, you can see it's a little high right now. Quick and easy fix. I'll just 3D print some risers instead of using these offcuts from the top mount. I got a measurement pulled for that. We're gonna move on to the front now though. Two things in the front. One, I didn't like the original grill, and my first thought was actually to cut this thing up and create a custom grill, full custom. But looking at how thick this plastic is and the structure involved in this grill, I didn't think that was a great idea. But RC 4-wheel drive actually has a replacement grill that'll fit into place, and actually has inserts. This is the insert I'll be running, but I will be making a couple of modifications to this as well, mostly paint wise. You'll see when we get to actually how I'm gonna paint this thing, but we'll be able to mount this in place just like the original one, put those screws in. I believe that's looking pretty good, although you really won't get the full effect until I get some paint on there. But scale wise in the front end here, there's still something that seems to be missing. We obviously can't just keep an electric motor in this pretty engine bay, so went ahead and found a Model LS kit. This is from Injora, I believe. I started putting this together and trying to mock it up, and I noticed a couple things weren't gonna fit. The motor was actually too high in the engine compartment. I had to go ahead and flip the transmission mounts, and I actually need to reprint a new cross member for the transmission. You can see here what I'm talking about, but now we're able to go in and put this motor in. I do believe I'm gonna end up having to trim the headers a little bit, mainly the front one around where my suspension comes up. Other than that, I think it'll be okay. Let me finish getting this motor put together and we can slap it on and see what needs to be cut. You might be able to see, or actually you might not be able to see, that I ended up having to cut the very first tube of the headers on both sides. And I had a whole joke planned out about that of, don't worry, I'm gonna put them back. This isn't a 6-cylinder, but I actually don't think they're gonna go back in. You can't really see where the cut is. Those front tubes fit perfectly in between my front upper arm mounts, and you can't see the bottom of it either. I really think that fit just kind of perfectly. It fell out right. I'll probably end up just cleaning up those pipes and painting it. Speaking of paint, obviously, I didn't throw together the entire engine with all the spark plugs and everything that came with it, because I will be tearing this thing apart to paint it. I don't want a giant red engine in there. It won't fit the color scheme that I have in mind. That actually fits in that engine compartment really nicely though. It looks really good, and it'll hide the wires pretty well too. At least from a little bit of a distance, this thing should look really scale when I open the hood. I also wanted to show you guys I had made this where the engine will actually stay in the truck as well when I lift the body off of it. Body's getting a little difficult to put on and off with all of these different pieces, but the engine will sit there and the body sits right back on. The only thing that really needs to be added to this motor to finish it off is an air cleaner of some sort in the front, some sort of intake tube. That'll be something that I 3D print. There's actually a couple different options that you can purchase with this motor kit for that, but I'll be 3D printing something custom that'll go underneath my panels. So a lot covered today, from a couple of little body mods with some filler, adding the rear tubs, as well as getting the top fit on in place, a new grill, and that crown jewel, the motor sitting inside the engine compartment. I know I've been saying it a lot, but the truck is really close to paint now. We just have a little bit of blocking out to do, priming, making sure we fill in all the little dips in the body, filling in the things that I don't want to see. We want a really smooth surface for paint. I'm curious, I was planning on doing a lot of that off camera and just showing you the painting process, but do you guys want to see the entire bodywork process? Let me know down in the comments below. From priming and blocking out, filling in little dents and stuff like that. Let me know if that's something you want to see, or do you just want to see when we go to painting, seeing that color get laid on. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're excited to see the next part of the build, and click on that bell to get notified when that video goes live. As always, thanks again for watching. Peace.